Chosen one. Anchor your spirit to what I'm about to say right now. That thought you've been carrying, the one telling you that what happened to you was the end, silence it. The enemy did not bring you to your knees because he was winning. He brought you to your knees because he was desperate. It all ends here. The narrative that you are damaged, that you are behind, that what was done to you or what you walked through somehow disqualified you from the life you were promised. It ends in this message, not because of luck, not because of timing, but because of what you endured and refused to let define you. Think back to that moment, maybe last week, maybe last month, when something hit you so hard you genuinely did not know if you would recover. You did not know if your faith would survive it. You did not know if your mind would survive it. And yet, here you are, sitting in front of this screen, still standing. You did not find this recording by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. The Holy Spirit did. This is a divine appointment, scheduled before the foundations of the earth, for this exact moment in your story. You are standing at a threshold. Stay until the very last second of this message, because in the next few minutes, I am going to show you exactly what that moment of destruction was actually designed to do in the spirit. I am going to hand you the verdict that exposes the enemy's failed assignment against your life. And at the end, I am going to give you the declaration that seals this chapter shut, so it can never be reopened. Do not click away. Your future self is begging you to stay, because if you leave now, you leave before you understand what you actually survived and why it matters. I know what the last few weeks have felt like. The atmosphere around your life has not just been difficult, it has been suffocating, like something was pressing against every door, every opportunity, every relationship, all at once. Maybe you went through something that looked, from the outside, like a collapse. Maybe it was a loss, a betrayal, a decision that unraveled everything. Or maybe it was something quieter and harder to name, a slow erosion, where one morning you woke up and realized that the life you had been building had quietly fallen apart while you were still trying to hold it together. You have been carrying something heavy, not just emotionally, physically. That tension in your chest that will not release, that weight behind your eyes, that exhaustion that sleep does not fix because it is not tiredness. It is the aftermath of surviving something that was designed to end you. And in that aftermath, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie. Listen to your thoughts right now. He is telling you that what happened to you left a permanent mark, that the version of you that exists on the other side of that pain is a lesser version, that the life you wanted is still there, but now it belongs to someone else because you lost too much ground, spent too much time recovering, made too many mistakes while you were bleeding. The accuser is telling you that the attack succeeded, maybe not completely, but enough. Enough to delay you, enough to diminish you, enough to change the trajectory of what God had planned. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Not some things, all things. Listen to that. All things. That means the betrayal. That means the collapse. That means the moment you thought was the end of your story. Every single thing that was thrown at you with the intention of destruction has already been rerouted by heaven into material for your breakthrough. The enemy sent that storm to erase you, but God used it to reveal you. The heaviness you feel is not the weight of failure. It is the weight of transformation. It is what it feels like when something that was never supposed to survive in your life is being permanently removed. You are not recovering from a loss. You are emerging from a process. What was meant to destroy your life did not fail by accident. It failed because you were never the target. You were the weapon. And the enemy made the fatal mistake of striking the instrument God was still sharpening. That was not your breaking point. That was your making point. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. It also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb it during prayer, rest, or quiet moments with God. And for those called to speak His truth, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook for those carrying a prophetic assignment. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now let's go deeper into what just happened to you. Because here's the thing, most people never stop to examine. When destruction comes for you and misses when the thing that was designed to end you somehow becomes the very ground you're standing on, that's not luck. That's not resilience in the psychological sense. That's a divine signature. It is the fingerprint of a God who works not around your suffering but through it, not in spite of the opposition but by means of it, turning every weapon formed against you into an unwilling instrument of your preparation. And the enemy knows it, even when you don't. The attack wasn't random, it was targeted, and targeted attacks don't happen to ordinary assignments. They happen to people whose potential the darkness recognized before the person ever did. Think about that for a moment. Something saw your future before you saw it, and it was afraid, not cautious, not merely watchful, afraid. Because fear is what moves you to act preemptively, and the darkness acted against you before you had any visible reason to be considered a threat. That tells you something profound about the nature of what you carry. You didn't earn the attack by what you had already accomplished. You attracted it by what you were always destined to become. The opposition wasn't responding to your history. It was responding to your prophecy. And that distinction, if you allow it to settle into your spirit, changes everything about how you read your past. David didn't become dangerous after he killed Goliath. He became dangerous the moment the shepherd's field tried to keep him small and couldn't. The lion came. The bear came. These weren't just physical threats. They were divine tests, administered in obscurity, in a field where no one was watching, in a season where nothing appeared to be happening. And something in him rose up that even he didn't fully understand yet. He didn't analyze it. He didn't wait for a theological framework to explain the sudden surge of holy courage that moved through him when teeth were at his flock. He just moved. And in that movement, something was being written into the fibers of who he was. The field was training him. The attacks were curriculum. Every threat that failed to destroy him was quietly building the reflexes of a king. He didn't go to the battlefield already confident. He went already tested. And that distinction changes everything. Goliath was not where David's courage was formed. Goliath was simply where his courage was revealed. The real formation happened in private, in the dust and the stillness, in the long hours of shepherding that nobody celebrated, in the encounters that nobody witnessed and nobody applauded. And when the giant stood before him and the whole army trembled, David was the only one in that valley who had already met something that required everything he had and survived. He had curriculum that the soldiers didn't have. He had a testimony from the field that qualified him for the battlefield, because you've been tested too. And the testing didn't feel like preparation, it felt like punishment. It felt like God had forgotten your address. It felt like you were being passed over while everyone around you seemed to move forward, untouched. You watched people with less experience, less hunger, less devotion, receive opportunities that you had prayed for, fasted for, believed for, and you stood in the field wondering whether God had misread your resume, wondering if you had somehow disqualified yourself through the very intensity of your desire, wondering if the silence was His answer. But what's coming next will likely surprise you, it always does. The people who move untouched are not the people God is preparing for what you're being prepared for. Ease is not the signature of a great calling. Ease is the signature of a comfortable assignment. There is nothing wrong with a comfortable assignment, but that is not what this is. That is not what you are. You did not arrive in this moment, carrying the weight of everything you've survived, to be handed a comfortable assignment. You were built for something that required this, required the fire, required the pressure, required the very thing that tried to take you out. The intensity of the resistance you faced is a direct revelation of the magnitude of what you're being sent to do. And until you stop grieving the process as if it was a mistake, you'll keep misreading the map. Here's where it goes deeper. The reason the destruction failed wasn't simply because God protected you, though He did, absolutely, sovereignly, with a precision that defies every natural explanation. But there's a layer beneath the protection that most people don't examine. It's because you were never the primary target in the way you thought. The enemy wasn't after your life. The enemy was after your identity. Because a person who doesn't know who they are can be alive and completely ineffective. They can be breathing and still be neutralized. They can be present in the room God ordained for them and still never open their mouth, never exercise their authority, never walk in the fullness of what they were sent to carry, because something inside them was hollowed out by an attack they never properly identified. The goal was never to kill your body. The goal was to kill your belief in what God placed inside you. And the moment you believed the lie even partially, even just in the quiet places of your inner life where you never said it aloud, the attack got closer to succeeding than any external force ever could. This is why the most devastating attacks on chosen people are never physical first, they're narrative. Someone speaks something over you at the wrong moment, a parent, a teacher, a leader, a person you trusted with your tender places, and the words land like seeds in soil that was soft because it was still forming. A season of failure confirms what fear had already whispered long before the failure arrived. A relationship ends and suddenly you're building a theology around your own unworthiness, constructing an entire doctrinal framework out of one person's inability to see your value. A betrayal reshapes your understanding of what you deserve. A series of closed doors becomes the text from which you preach a sermon about your own limitations. You start to agree with the very thing that was sent to destroy you. And agreement is the open door that force alone could never find. The enemy does not need a battering ram when he has your cooperation. He does not need an army when he can recruit your own voice against you. But let me challenge you with something. If you made it through, and you did, because you're here, then somewhere in that process, you refused. Maybe you didn't refuse loudly. Maybe it wasn't a dramatic declaration of faith. Maybe there was no mountain-moving moment of breakthrough where the clouds parted and the clarity flooded in. Maybe it was simply that you didn't fully die inside, even when everything around you said you should have. Maybe it was just that you kept getting up in the morning. Maybe it was just that you kept praying the same broken prayer through tears that felt like they were going nowhere. Maybe it was just that some stubborn, unkillable part of you held on to something you couldn't even name, some faint and trembling thread of belief that this could not be the end of the story. That refusal, that quiet inner survival, that tiny unextinguished flame that was God holding the most essential part of you intact. And what He preserved in you during the worst season of your life is precisely what He intends to use in the most significant season of your life. And this is what changes the lens entirely. The suffering wasn't a detour, it was a deposit. Every wound was a withdrawal from the enemy's account and a deposit into yours. Every night of weeping that lasted too long built a capacity for comfort that only those who have truly wept can carry. Every season of confusion forged a discernment that cannot be taught in a classroom. Every betrayal deepened a loyalty to God that fair weather seasons never could have cultivated. The suffering was not an interruption of your development, it was the mechanism of it. And until you receive it as such, you will carry the weight of it as baggage, rather than draw on it as resource. Think of Joseph in the pit, not the palace, the pit. Because the pit is the part we want to skip over, the part that doesn't make it into the highlight reel. That moment when his brothers stripped him of his coat, the coat that represented his identity as the favored one, as the dreamer, as the son who had been set apart by a father's love and a God-given vision. They stripped it and threw him into a hole in the ground, dry, empty, voiceless. And in that moment, everything that had confirmed who he was got taken away. His covering, his position, his safety, his family, his future as he had imagined it. Everything external that had been holding the shape of his identity was gone. And yet the dream didn't die in the pit. The dream God had given him was never housed in the coat. It was never dependent on the favor of his brothers. It was never fragile enough to be destroyed by a change of circumstance. Because the dream God gives a person is not stored in the externals of their life. It is sealed in the inmost part of them, in that sacred interior space where God alone has access, where no hand of man and no scheme of hell can reach without God's permission. No pit is deep enough to bury what God has sealed inside a person. Read that again slowly, because it is the antidote to every argument your circumstances have been making against your future. No pit, no betrayal, no failure, no season of silence, no loss so devastating that it reshaped your whole understanding of yourself. None of it was deep enough. And the proof is that you are still here, still feeling the pull of something you cannot fully articulate, still responding to messages like this one because something in you refuses to let go of what God said. Even when you've tried to talk yourself out of it 100 times, you may have lost the coat. You may have lost the relationship, the position, the title, the platform, the community, the version of yourself that you had carefully constructed and presented to the world. But here's the part no one wants to hear, because it requires a kind of surrender that feels like loss, even when it is actually liberation. Sometimes God allows the coat to be taken because you were starting to mistake the coat for the calling. You were starting to carry the confirmation the way some people carry an idol, looking to it to reassure you, to steady you, to tell you who you were when the voice of God felt distant. You were starting to worship the confirmation instead of the one who confirmed you. And so he let it be stripped, not to humiliate you, not to punish you for loving the gift, but to reveal to you something that the presence of the coat was obscuring, that what he placed inside you cannot be taken by what happens around you. The coat was evidence of the calling, but the calling itself was never in the coat. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share next is the part that breaks the cycle. The part that explains why sincere, devoted, spiritually hungry people can keep finding themselves back at the same walls, facing the same internal resistance, experiencing the same pattern of forward movement followed by mysterious stagnation. There is a pattern that runs through the lives of people with genuine callings, and it is as consistent as it is initially unsettling. The calling is revealed early. Then, immediately, not eventually, not after a reasonable period of preparation, immediately, opposition rises. Not coincidentally, not by chance, but in direct proportion to the weight of what God said. The size of the attack is calibrated to the size of the assignment, and the opposition is always designed to do one of two things: either make you doubt what you heard, causing you to dismiss the vision as the product of ambition or delusion, or make you feel disqualified from receiving it, causing you to hold the calling at arm's length while never fully stepping into it. And most people get taken out not by the attack itself, but by the interpretation they give the attack. If I suffer, it must mean I'm wrong. If doors are closing, God must not be in this. If I'm being overlooked, maybe I misheard. If this much resistance is coming, perhaps I should take it as a sign. And so the enemy doesn't need to destroy the calling, he just needs to manage your interpretation of your pain. He just needs you to run the wrong equation, to read the resistance as a red light when it was always meant to be preparation. Because a called person who believes they're disqualified will disqualify themselves. You'll do his work for him. You'll close the door from the inside. You'll walk away from the very threshold you were assigned to cross and call it wisdom. And yet there's something beneath even that, a layer most people never examine because it hides too cleverly and too deep. It's not just doubt about the calling. It's a deeper, quieter agreement with unworthiness. It's the place inside you that actually believes, not because of logic, not because of theology, not because you've sat down and reasoned your way there, but because of accumulated pain, because of layered losses and compounded disappointments, that someone like you doesn't get to carry something that big, that the dream is for other people, for people with cleaner histories, for people who didn't make those choices, didn't suffer those losses, didn't fail in those specific ways, didn't carry that particular kind of brokenness, that the anointing flows over others and around you, that you are somehow uniquely exempt from the grace that seems available to everyone else. And that belief doesn't announce itself. It doesn't stand up and declare itself an enemy. It is far too sophisticated for that. It disguises itself as humility. It calls itself being realistic. It says things like, "I just don't want to get my hopes up." It says, "I've been here before and I know how this ends." It sounds like wisdom. It sounds like self-awareness. It sounds like the voice of someone who has simply learned from experience. And it is one of the most dangerous spiritual postures you can carry into any season, because it looks like maturity while functioning as surrender. It masquerades as groundedness, while quietly dismantling every bridge between where you are and where God is calling you. Humility is not the same as self-erasure. This distinction is not minor, it is the axis on which entire destinies turn. Moses didn't lead a nation by disappearing into the background. He didn't lead by being the smallest voice in the room. He led by finally, painfully, reluctantly, incrementally agreeing with what God saw, even when he couldn't see it himself. He stood at the burning bush with every reason in the world to say no. He had a failure in his past that had cost him everything. He had been in the wilderness for 40 years, long enough for a person to conclude that the chapter of significance was closed forever. He stuttered, he doubted, he argued, and yet, in the end, he moved. Not because he felt qualified, not because the self-doubt had been fully resolved, but because God said something that changed the entire equation. "I will be with you," which means the qualification was never about Moses to begin with. It was always about the one sending him. The adequacy was never resident in Moses, it was resident in the commission. And that principle has not changed, not by one syllable, not by one generation. The God who said, "I will be with you," to a stuttering, uncertain shepherd in the desert is the same God saying it to you right now. Now, once you understand that, you're ready for this. Because here's the hidden root that keeps even sincere, spiritually hungry people locked in cycles they can't break. Cycles of almost breakthrough, cycles of forward and back, cycles of breakthrough in one area and simultaneous collapse in another. It's misplaced grief. You have been grieving things that were never meant to stay. You've been mourning the loss of seasons, relationships, opportunities, identities, and versions of yourself that God allowed to end, not because He abandoned you, but because they had reached their ceiling, because they had given you everything they were designed to give you, because keeping them would have kept you from what was next. And grief is not wrong. Grief is human, and grief is holy. Jesus wept at the tomb of Lazarus, and that weeping was not a lack of faith. But there is a critical difference between grief that passes through you and grief that becomes your permanent residence. When grief becomes a dwelling place, when you build your identity around what you lost rather than what survived, You erect a monument to an ending in the very space where God was trying to begin something. You make it nearly impossible for God to show you what He's building because you're too occupied with eulogizing what He allowed to conclude. You are so fluent in the language of what was taken that you've become deaf to the language of what remains and what is being prepared. The grief was natural. The dwelling was never intended. The woman who lost her coin in Luke 15 didn't grieve in the dark. She lit a lamp. She swept the house. She searched with intention, with energy, with focused movement, and she found what was lost. But notice something that the text carries quietly and most people miss. The lamp was already in the house. The coin never left the house. It hadn't been stolen. It hadn't been destroyed. It was simply displaced, covered by the ordinary accumulation of life, obscured but not absent, hidden but not gone. And the searching required her to move, not to mourn. It required light, not lamentation. It required action oriented by faith that what she was looking for was still there. There is something God preserved in you that feels lost, but was never taken. Something that was sealed in you in that burning, suffering season that you thought was destroying you. It just requires you to stop sitting in the dark and start searching with the light He's already placed inside you. Because the light is there. The Spirit is there. The testimony of your own survival is there. The evidence is in your continued presence in this moment. And here's the confrontation that will either land or be resisted, depending on where you are right now, depending on whether your spirit is open or whether the layers of self-protection are still too thick. The thing that's been blocking your breakthrough isn't the enemy. It's not your past. It's not the people who hurt you, the doors that closed, the years that felt wasted, the opportunities that seemed to slip through your fingers, or the seasons that appeared to consume your best years and give nothing back. All of those things contributed to the wound, but they are not the root of the blockage. The deepest blockage, the one hiding beneath all the others, the one that survives even after deliverance, even after inner healing, even after genuine encounter with God, is your unresolved relationship with your own significance. It is the unhealed fracture in your ability to receive what God says about you. You have not yet fully made peace with the fact that God chose you on purpose, with full knowledge, with open eyes, with complete awareness of everything you would do, everything you would fail at, every time you would fall short, every way you would disappoint yourself and others, every wound you would carry and every wound you would cause. He chose you anyway, not in spite of your story, but through it. Not despite the complexity of who you are, but because of it. Because He needed someone who had been through exactly what you've been through to reach exactly who you're being sent to reach. And until you stop asking God to explain why He picked someone like you and start agreeing with the fact that He did, you will keep experiencing partial breakthroughs, the kind that get you to the door, but not through it. Moments of movement followed by mysterious retreat, glimpses of the promised land, followed by the inexplicable pull back toward familiar wilderness. Encounters with God that are genuinely powerful, but don't seem to translate into sustained forward motion, because you keep arriving at the threshold and then stepping back, and it looks like spiritual warfare from the outside, but on the inside it is something more intimate. It is the unresolved tension between what God says and what your history has conditioned you to believe about yourself. You have faith in God, but you have not yet developed faith in what God said about you. And that is the missing piece. That is the closed door inside the closed door. What failed to destroy you was not just a spiritual attack. It was the final attempt to keep you out of the room you were always meant to enter. Every coordinated assault on your peace, your identity, your calling, your confidence, all of it was one sustained effort to keep you outside of what was always yours. And it failed. Which means the room is still there, door still open, your name still written above the threshold. Which means The assignment is still intact, not diminished by the delay, not contaminated by the process, not contingent on your perfection. Which means, this season right now, today, in this very moment, is not the beginning of a new attempt at something that has perpetually eluded you. It is the arrival of what was always coming, what was written before you were born, what God foresaw when He knit you together in secret and said, this one is who I'm sending. Place your hand on your heart and declare this with me. I am not what tried to destroy me. I am what survived it. I release every agreement I made with unworthiness, with self-erasure, with the lie that my history disqualifies my destiny. I release grief over what was never meant to stay. I receive the fullness of what God preserved in me during every dark season, every moment I almost gave up but didn't. I declare that my calling is intact, my anointing is intact. The assignment that was written over my life before I took my first breath is still written, still active, still coming to pass. I step forward, not perfectly, not without fear, but in full agreement with heaven. I am seen, I am chosen. And what tried to destroy my life only proved that my life was worth targeting, which means it is worth protecting, worth building, and worth giving everything I have to fulfill. From this moment forward, I walk as someone who knows what survived in them, and I will not waste it. Let that declaration settle. Let it move from your lips into your bones, because declarations made from a place of genuine agreement with heaven are not empty words. They are prophetic acts. They are the closing of doors that should have been closed long ago, and the opening of corridors that have been waiting for your yes. Something shifts when you stop explaining to God why His choice of you was impractical and start walking in alignment with the fact that He made it anyway. Something in the spiritual atmosphere changes when a chosen person stops apologizing for being chosen and starts moving with the quiet, grounded authority of someone who knows their assignment came from the throne room and not the approval of men. This is the season of no more almost. No more arriving at the edge and retreating. No more letting the size of the assignment intimidate you back into smallness. No more building altars to what was taken while the foundation of what God is building goes unattended. You have done enough grieving. You have done enough explaining. You have spent enough years in the field questioning whether the palace was ever real. It was real. It is real. And the path between here and there is already being laid beneath your feet. It just requires you to take the next step without waiting for the whole staircase to be visible. Isaiah 43 says, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" That question, do you not perceive it, is not rhetorical. It is an invitation. God is asking whether your eyes are open to what He is already doing, whether you've been so focused on what was lost that you've missed the movement of what is coming. The new thing was not going to announce itself with the same vocabulary as the old thing. It was not going to look like what you lost. It was going to come differently, arrive through unexpected doors, wear unfamiliar clothing. And you might miss it entirely if you are still standing at the grave of what God already finished. This is why the resource I mentioned at the beginning of this message matters so much. The Chosen One's blueprint is not motivational content. It is a spiritual map for exactly this terrain, for the person who has survived the fire and is standing at the intersection of everything they've been through and everything they've been called to. The 8 divine patterns revealed in that guide are not theories. They are drawn from the lived experience of chosen people throughout Scripture and throughout history. People who looked exactly where you are right now, who felt exactly what you're feeling, and who stepped forward anyway. And the audiobook format means you can receive it not just as information, but as immersion during your morning walk, during your prayer time, in those quiet moments before sleep, when the spirit is most receptive and the noise of the day has finally gone still. And if you carry a prophetic assignment, if you have felt for years that there is a word inside you that is meant to go further than the walls of your private prayer life, then the bonus ebook, Activating Your Prophet Mantle, is for you. It is a guide for those who are being prepared not just to receive the word, but to carry it, to speak it, to let it go out and accomplish what God sent it to accomplish through them. The link is in the first pinned comment, but it is only available for a limited time. Don't let the moment pass. If this message reached something in you today, don't let it end here. Leave a comment below and tell me what is the one thing that tried to destroy you but failed. Your testimony is not just for you. Someone else needs to hear that it's possible to survive and still step into everything God promised. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that they are still standing for a reason. And come back, because this is only the beginning of what God is unlocking in this season.